to repost this to our YouTube page. And so for anybody who is watching with us on Facebook, just go ahead and say hello in the comments, share this live video on your page, share it with any groups you may be a part of, with any friends who may need to see this. And so my name is Marissa. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes. I'm going to share it to where we had our event page. We have Lynnett here with us. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself real quick?
Hi, I'm Lynnett Fox. I'm the mother of Jesse Cedillo, and he was killed by police in Pueblo, Colorado, on March 14th of last year. It was actually a Pueblo County Sheriff's deputy. His name is Jeff Alfonso.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on with us today. This is episode 18 of our Voices of Strength series. So for those who may be new to this, for those who are watching for the first time, I started this last year, and each week we highlight a different victim of police brutality, police killing, and we get to share their stories and listen to their stories directly from their impacted families. So this week we have the mother of Jesse today. So it's just been over a year now. We just hit the 1 year anniversary.
We just had that on the 14th of March.
And I've been following Jesse's story. I remember when it first happened. I remember coming across your posts and you in the groups and stuff. So I've kind of got to see everything go down. I know anybody else, there are going to be other families and people watching who say the same thing too.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's just been crazy. I can't believe it's also happened. It's gone by a year already.
It's like mind blowing that it's been a year already. It seems like it was just yesterday. I remember it feels like I could feel the feelings like it was just yesterday, and it's been a year already.
Yeah, and so much you've learned. You've learned so much. So much has changed. I know you've been one of the family members to jump in. We end up having to become experts in this. We become
become private investigators, detectives. We become basically everything. And yeah, I've learned. I mean, I'm an investigator by nature, so it kind of was natural for me to just start digging in.
Yeah, and then that's your son. So people get to hear, what you guys heard from the beginning, your experience, details that they never heard. So once again, we're just getting started. For anybody who's coming on, we have a few people in here with us, and I've shared it into our event page, which is where we created the event on Facebook. We have 16 people live with us. I shared it to my Facebook. Anybody else, feel free to share this for us so we can help get Jesse's story told. So let's go ahead and we've already introduced, I introduced the show. And for people who do not know me, my brother, Michael Barrera, was killed 4 years ago now by police in our hometown of Woodland, California. And just like Lynnett, I hopped in, became investigator, had to really learn a lot about killed by police, about police in general and police killings, and do a lot of work. So it's been 4 years.
I've learned a lot from watching you. That's,
yeah, I with the way social media is, with families that are connecting via social media and things like that, I think it makes it a lot easier for us to connect with you guys.
Oh no, it really does. It does. Well, I feel like I heard from families, I would say by that evening or by the next day, I was hearing from daughters of a man who was killed in Colorado Springs. That's just north of us. His daughters started messaging me and letting me know what was going on. People from here had messaged me. People from like New York had started messaging. I mean, the word gets out really quickly. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that when it first happens, you don't expect it. The first few, for everyone's different, but for me, it was the first few months that were really foggy still, and just so much is going on, and you're going running, and um,
For me, it
uh,
was like the whole thing played out on Facebook to begin with. Like, I woke up that morning and they said there was a police involved shooting. I saw it on Facebook. There was to stay out of the area. There was a news story where they said they had a video of the shooting of the carjacker being shot. I went to click on it because I'm one of them. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to watch it because that's how I am. I'm nosy. And I went to click on it and I said, no, I don't feel like watching it. So I went over and I had told my husband, oh, another police involved shooting. These,
my
because
goodness,
we could see that the cops were getting out of control here. And I go, they killed someone else. Oh my God, it was just like that. Didn't know it was my son.
my goodness. So that's how you heard about the killing first. How long did it take before you heard that it was Jesse?
It took about 7 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, that was about 8:30 in the morning, 9:30. And then I was on Facebook posting little jokes because the whole coronavirus thing, with the toilet paper was going on. And I was posting jokes, about the toilet paper. And then I had posted a post about my kids. It was like, which kid does this? Like, who would help you hide the body? Who would, and I was writing all my kids down, who's the meanest, who's the nicest, who's this. And I was writing, who would help you find the body? Jesse, it was just all of that. And my daughter comes up on it and she's laughing. I'm not the meanest one, and we were going back and forth. We didn't know it was him.
Goodness.
Um, that daughter, Jaylyn, my youngest, she had seen the video, and she said it had broke her heart, but she didn't know it was him. She thought it
Wow.
looked like a little kid because see, they blocked him out in it. They blurred him out, so you couldn't tell who it was. You could just see
Wow.
somebody running, and it looked like a little kid, to be honest. Well, and he was 20, he had just turned 20. So he's running, and she says, it looked like a little kid, Mom. I didn't know it was him, but she felt
Goodness.
something, and she went to work. My other daughter, she saw it. She was ready to have a baby. She was due within the week. She said she didn't feel good after that. She went to bed. She was feeling sick. My other daughter didn't see it, and I didn't want to click on it. I stood on Facebook, and at that time I wasn't getting on Facebook very often. So it was weird that the week before that is when I had started actually getting on again. And I guess because I was going to have to prepare myself because it's all done on social media now, everything, if you want to get
Mhm.
word out about anything, if you want to do anything, it's all played out right on this little platform. So we, it was 2:30 in the afternoon when my husband had left to go take some furniture to a friend. And wasn't even gone 5 minutes when there was a pounding on my door. And I was like, what is he coming back from? Why is he knocking on the door? And I had just picked up the phone and dialed my son's phone number to call him. And he didn't answer, and I hung up and I answered the door, and it was this lady. And I looked out and I could see in the corner of my eye, it was a coroner's car.
Wow.
You know how they're like the metal, almost like a dog catchers in a way.
Mhm.
And she says, are you Lynnett Fox? And I said, yes. And she says, is Jesse Cedillo your son? And I knew it right then. I go, he's dead, huh? And she said, yeah. And I go, the cops killed him, huh? And she said, yeah, I don't
God.
know where that came from, but I knew instinctively right there that it was him and that the cops had killed him. And she said, yeah, he was involved in that. And I was like, oh my God, no. So then I went through that, called everybody, and I got onto Facebook and I watched the video. And you could even see from the video, to me, that he was not charging the officer, even with him being a little blur. And so the first thing I could think of was, oh my God, I counted 13 shots at that point. And I said, oh my God, they shot my kid. They shot my son 13 times. And that's what that was my first post on Facebook. That was all I could think about was, they shot my baby 13 times, 13 times. And everybody was like, what, and by then, word was going around that it was him. And he had a lot of friends. He was 20 years old, and he was a very good boy. He had a good heart. He did a lot for people. So the word was getting around, and everybody was just freaking out. And it was crazy because that's how I found out. It wasn't like, hey man, I'm sorry for your loss. It was the coroner. Here, and I bet my son was in the truck. To be honest with you, I bet you my son was in the truck. And I just thought about that like a week ago. And I said, I bet you my son was laying in that truck.
My goodness, I'm so sorry. That it's, everybody hears about it a different way. It's always just so crazy. Let's go back to the video. So how did that, for people not watching that don't know about his story, who took the video and how did that, play out? Like,
okay, a man that lived across the street, he lived across the street from where it happened. Well, and like, it was like catty corner like this, kind of, like that. He was going for a jog that morning, and he saw all these cops, and they told him, get back in your house. So he went back into the house, and he just decided, I'm going to start taping. He said, I thought I was going to see somebody getting tackled or tased or something. And so he started taping. His wife was upstairs watching, and their 7-year-old son. They never thought that they were going to see that. He was an active military. He was active military. Immediately he saw something weird. While he was taping it, and all of the police came over, and you could see it in the tape. One of them looked at him, because by then he's moved outside, and one of them's looking at him, and he could see that they saw that he had taped it. So he got scared, and he knew that a news reporter lived in the neighborhood. So he ended up calling him and giving him the tape. And he gave him the tape because he didn't want the police to take it and that it would disappear. And he didn't know that he would immediately play it on there. And they immediately played it on there before time. Mm-hmm. No, and I mean, the couple, they both saw it. They have both said he did not have a gun. He wasn't, because the narrative from the police was that he was an armed carjacker, that he was hiding, that the officer gave him commands, and he came running out with him wielding a knife, a gun going at him.
So that was the first narrative.
That was put out at about 7:45, 8 o'clock that morning. But what was weird was my son was shot at 7:20 in the morning. Critical incident response team was called up at 7 o'clock. How was that? How were they called to come up to the scene before it even happened?
Wow.
And it's written everywhere in the reports, on their first narrative, on everything. And the sheriff's department put out one statement and one statement only, and it was that. And it was at 7:45 that at 7 a.m. Sheriff Kirk Taylor enacted the critical response team. And that's what they have here with police involved shootings.
Okay. Okay, let's go back to, also, I wanted to be clear with people. So he was shot by the Pueblo County Sheriffs.
Yes.
And then they had enacted the critical response team. Indeed. So
before he even died, before he was even shot. He was shot at 7:20, but they enacted it at 7 a.m. And how did this see? And what it was like a joint effort between Pueblo police and the sheriff's department, because he had allegedly stolen a car from Pueblo Youth Center, which was a youth facility. Okay. And I guess they were confused on who handled it. The car had been on the side of the street, it was put PD. If it was in the parking lot, it was the sheriff. So it was something to that effect, that they couldn't decide who was supposed to do it, so they both handled it. Well, on the scene was 3 deputies and at least 8 or 9 Pueblo PDs. They were all on scene. So I look at it, they were all there. They were all responsible, because they left him to, after he was shot, and the officer let out I'm a little nervous. The
It's okay.
deputy put out a total of 15 shots. It turned out to be 15, not 13. And my son was shot 5 times. And if you've watched the video, and I'll put the video on the site after, so that people who haven't seen it could see it and they could judge the things. I'll put the videos after,
With the
so they
links
could
out.
judge for themselves.
Okay.
But he was first shot in the knee and he went down. And then he was shot 4 other times. He was hit twice in the chest, once in the torso, and then in his foot. He bled out and he died. After the shooting, they don't call for he don't say shots fired until after he's done, and they're already all up there staring at him. They're screaming at him, don't move, don't move. Well, he's just been shot. He's probably having seizures,
Yeah.
They bend him down, they grab him, they throw him around, they handcuff him. He's been shot, they handcuff him, and they throw him to the ground. They say that there's a gun there, but in the videos, I have played these videos back and forth. There is no gun. First, there was a gun underneath his torso. Then there was a gun underneath his legs. Then there was a gun to the right. Well, all of a sudden, this a PD saying, "Oh, it's right here," and his foot's on it. And that's how you secure a weapon, is by putting your foot on it? Because couldn't it fire off that way? So then they're checking him and they look in his pocket. Oh yeah, there's his cell phone. There's a mag here. There's a magazine. Never pulled the magazine out, to show it. And you know how they do. They show it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a magazine. There, never pulled it out of his pocket to show it. Nothing. And then put him down, and they threw him down and put him on his side and threw him up against a brick. He died with his face up against a brick like this.
My goodness.
And straight to his face, and it smashed in his nose. And that's how my son died.
I'm so sorry. It's crazy how they that's normal for them when they handcuff and they treat the bodies like that, and then they're screaming at them all these orders. Most of the time when they shoot someone, they yell an order, and with Jesse, they yell and don't give them time. Shoot right away.
Well, yeah, you can see it in the video. He says,
yeah,
show me your hands. Show me your hands, show. And he starts shooting. And my son's hands, he was trying to put his hands up, is what he was doing when he starts shooting him. He has his hands up. He looks terrified. He looks absolutely terrified in the video, like, oh my God, I'm being shot, And they said he's running towards him. And if you look at the critical incident report, they got this expert from California, and he's narrating, I guess, what was in Jesse's mind and what was in the officer's mind. And they justify basically it because an officer has only split seconds to react. Well, people only have split seconds to react too. And how come is it that they are the experts, but yet we have to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, oh, poor officer, he only had split seconds to think about it. But this kid who was 20 didn't have split seconds, but split seconds to think of how he was going to react to something. Yeah. I mean, a 20-year-old does not process this. And probably most people that, okay, if I come out here and I'm scared because this guy starts shooting at me and I'm running, then I just need to stand there and let him shoot me. Otherwise he's going to keep shooting me. I don't think that a person thinks that way. When you get shot or a bullet start coming at you, you're thinking, oh my God, I got to run from the bullets. And that's what he was doing. He was running from the bullets. He wasn't running towards the cops. He was running away from the bullets. He was trying to turn the corner so that he could get where this bush was, so he could get away from him. And he hit the ground. And once he hit the ground, 4 shots and he was gone.
And I have watched the video. I watched it in the beginning. It's clear. You can see we're getting lots of comments too. So for anybody leaving comments, we will go through them. Either we'll get a chance today, or while we're speaking, or we'll go through them later if we can. But thank you guys.
Thank you all for coming and supporting.
Yeah, and I think it's clear the video shows that Jesse was in fear for his life, and he had every reason to be, because he was about to be shot and killed. And for the officer, this is something that I repeated over the years after seeing so many people killed by police after my brother, 4 years now, your son being one of them. It's like, we can have video proof for this shit, and then they still get away with it.
It's crazy because they justify it. And it's even, I've used their evidence. Okay, they sent the video out. They sent the body cam of the officer, the deputy, plus the video from the neighbor. They sent it out to be analyzed. She stabilized it, both of them, and she counted where each bullet. That proves even more what I was saying. The fact that she put where each bullet was proved, and I was saying this before she even did that. This is where the first bullet hit him. This is where the second bullet, because I've dissected those videos. Like, at that point, it was just the one video. But I've even done it with the body cams. I have dissected them backwards and forwards. And I know exactly, you could see exactly when. And they said, well, it only happened in, 5 seconds. 15 shots in 5 seconds. And he says he didn't even know how many shots he had fired. He reloaded even. And that's against protocol. He reloaded even and said he didn't know how many shots he had fired, but he was scared for his life.
From a small young man that was not armed. Right. So, and then I want to somebody pointed out in the comments also, which I wanted to point out as well, is no medics were called.
No medics were ever. Well, no, the medics came. They did not let them check him. You could if you read the reports from the critical incident reports, they asked, did you check him? They asked the paramedics, and the paramedics said, no, he was riddled in bullets. We just left. That's exactly what they said. He was riddled in bullets, so we left. I've seen where they've shot somebody 15, 16, 20 times, and they still take him to the hospital. They didn't care to take him to the hospital. And the crazy thing is okay, all the body cams that they've released are all of the sheriffs, all 3 of the sheriffs they released. They all leave the scene within 5 minutes of it happening, 5 to 10 minutes of it happening. So where is all that time from the time that he gets shot and the officers leave, all that time until his body is taken away? Because we honestly don't know what time he died. His death certificate says he was pronounced dead at, I believe it was 1:05, or it was either 1:05 or, I believe it's 1:05 or 1:30. And then it says, but the actual time of death is 7:20. So they're saying he died instantly, but I can see in the body cams him breathe. He was breathing. He was struggling you could see him struggling for life. He looks up and he doesn't say a word to him. You could tell he didn't talk, and you didn't hear him on camera, but he was struggling for breath. He was trying to breathe. I could see him. So he did not die instantly. So what time he died, we won't know, because they never took him to see. And why the coroner didn't come out and until one in the afternoon and to pronounce him dead, I don't know. So in my eyes, he died at 1, because that's when they pronounced him dead. So he sat there for hours and hours and hours, because he could have been alive and breathing, and we would never know.
Wow. It's a lot, and this is some stuff that a mother should never have to watch, and you shouldn't have to go in there and become the investigator, your own family's investigator for your son's murder.
And see your child. I see my child die every single day. I have to relive that every single day. And I don't watch it anymore. I got to the point where I said, okay, Lynnett, you've watched it enough. You've dissected it enough. If they don't believe you, then they're never going to believe you. And it's that way. If people have an open mind and they see things, they will believe what they see with this. If they believe that the cops could do no wrong, and they'll never do no wrong, they'll never believe it anyways. So it's kind of, and that's how video kind of is if you have an open mind, you'll see it. If you are closed-minded saying the cops are justified with everything that they do, then you'll never see it. You won't, you'll never see it. You will see it as the cop saying he's coming at him when he wasn't. He was just going in the same direction because he came out of a car. He came out from underneath the car. He heard the police behind him coming after him. So he didn't even hear the one in the front, I believe. I believe he heard the ones in the back because by their statements, they said they were giving him commands as well. So he did not, I don't believe he saw the one guy in the front. I believe he came out from this way because the officer, okay, the way the scene was, the officer was over to the side this way. He's coming out from this way. So it's like this. So he's not going to see him. He didn't see him until he started getting shot at. And he was getting shot at. He kind of dodged a couple bullets until he got to this direction. And the dude was, for being a trainer, was a pretty bad shot because he shot 15 times and only hit him 5. 10 hit the house. And inside the house was a little old lady. He could have killed her.
So reckless.
And nothing for that, in Breonna Taylor's, case, they at least charged one of the officers for that. But I would have been happy even with just that. There would have been something.
Yeah.
But no, they didn't charge him with that. And with that, they just went and fixed her house and acted like it didn't even happen. And I know it was the police who went and fixed her house. Because she was very supportive right after it happened. And then all of a sudden she was like, I don't want nobody at my house no more.
No, didn't want to talk, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're known, the police, after they killed, they're known to do that to witnesses and people that may have seen or know something.
Well, the wife of the guy with the camera that taped it, she was pregnant. She was very adamant at what she saw. She said, I saw him running with his hands up. He had no gun and he shot him when he was on the ground. He kept shooting him. And he walked up very calmly shooting him. And then they left him to die. And she said that, and I mean, no doubt about it. And they said she was emotional because she was pregnant and she was seeing things different. That they told her that.
Wow.
And the neighbors there was neighbors across the street. I mean, when we went after the decision was made and we went and we marched through the neighborhood, the neighbors were bringing us out food and pop and saying, we saw it. He didn't have a gun. And they never brought that out. In every single statement that they put in the thing, besides from them, because they kind of couldn't hide them, was that nobody heard nothing. Well, they might have heard the shots and came out, but like nobody saw nothing whatsoever. But the neighbors all told us, we told them, we told directly across the street, they had a ring. She told me, we told them. And nothing.
They purposely leave those witnesses out because it doesn't benefit them. And
it's crazy that you learn all of that stuff. I knew the cops were crooked because I had been writing about police brutality for years. I'm just a poet and I write different things about it. A friend of mine, her sons got, they were a victim in Salt Lake City. They didn't die. Her 2 sons were beat up in the street by Salt Lake City police. And I believe it's 2012 it was. And they were in a homeless shelter and she was really ill and they were crossing the street and she started to have a seizure. And they went to help her out of the way. And the police drove up and got him for jaywalking. And they said, I was helping my mom.
Oh my goodness.
And they started beating the kids up and it was caught on camera. So that's when I first started like researching it. And I didn't know they were as dirty as they were though. I mean, they're outrageous. They planted a gun in with my son's case. They planted a gun.
Yeah, let's talk about the gun part. So when did you realize that? Because I know you dissected.
My daughter, Jaylyn, she sent me those video clips that I put up. She actually sent me those months ago. And me and her talked about it. And we're both like, is that it? Or because you for a minute, you're like, am I seeing correct? And after we we decided to actually post the video without him being blurred the day after because on that Sunday, the day after he died, I called KRDO, the news station where they posted the video. And I said, I want to see that video. I want to see it without the blur on there. And they said, well, we can't show it to you because it's not ours, but we can direct you to who has it. So I said, okay, give him my number. He called me back immediately and said, I've been trying to get a hold of you. I've been trying to get a hold of you. And I went and looked, and his wife had messaged me in my others box. And he said, he immediately gave me a copy of the video. I mean, no questions. And we watched it, and their narrative was completely off, which was what we all saw. So we made a conscious choice to post the video, even though it was of him getting killed. And Lynn had said, I'll put it on, that she would put it on her page, because, a lot of the younger people who might be witnesses and stuff would see it, and, they could kind of get the word out quicker than, say it on my page when at the time I only had like 200 friends and she has like 5,000. So we put it on there, and it was just like, how, I kind of got lost in my train of thought. I have fibromyalgia, so I kind of get like that sometimes, but
no problem.
With the gun, she got like it was me and her, we were investigating. She dissected the video. We were spending like hours looking, forwards, slowing it down, speeding it up. I've even turned it upside down to see if you could just see something from a different angle. And I posted it, and I said, look, and nobody commented on it. Nobody said anything. And I said, okay, I'm going crazy. So it must not be the same thing. So then I took it off, and I erased it, and I forgot I had it. So on his anniversary, I was looking for videos of when he was a kid, because I had him in my Google Photos, and I came across that again. And I said, well, what's this? Because it was just like all the officers. I said, what's this about? So I clicked on it, and I said, oh my God, I forgot about this. And I looked at it again, and I said, oh my God, is this really is this really what I'm seeing? So I put it off to the side, and I made my videos and went through his anniversary, because I didn't want to do it on that day. And then I think it was the day after or the day after that, I said, okay, I'm just going to post this and say, tell me, what do you see? So I wasn't telling everybody so that they would see the same thing that I saw. I didn't say, look, he planted a gun. I just said, what do you see? And immediately, oh my God, he planted. And they were pointing to the people who I was saying, this is, because I know. But what I think people didn't see, there's the video first where it keeps going back and forth, like it looks like it's being repeated, where you see an officer hand something to another officer, and he looks back, and that's when he saw the camera, and you see him look at the camera, and he's like, ah, shit. And that's when the gun was transferred, and then it's placed on the ground. And my daughter pointed that out to me a few days ago, and I said, wow, I didn't even notice that. She said, yes, Mom. And I looked, and I was like, oh my God, you see the actual officer hand another officer something, and then look at that camera. And it's like, it looks like he's looking directly at the camera, and he may not have been. He might have just been looking out that way to see if anybody was looking. And it's like, wow. So yeah, if you get a chance to go look at it's with the two videos, they're concentrating on the one where we put the red, but it's actually the other video that shows you more.
Yeah, so we'll post those links within the comments and on the pages, so that people can go and watch and see what we're speaking of. Yeah, it's crazy. This is some stuff like you would think is just in the movies, some
That's
nightmare.
What I keep saying. It's like, this is like a movie, and honestly, had my son, but because I'm not a stupid person who thinks your kids could do no wrong. If my son was doing wrong, if my son had done wrong, and he had a gun, and he was wielding it at that officer, and they had to shoot him because he was wielding it at the officer, I would have told them sorry. I would have said, I didn't raise my son like that. I'm so sorry. I would have said that. But that didn't happen, number one. But and then I started, the more I've learned, this is how I felt when it first happened, and I was telling them that. The more I thought about it, it doesn't matter if even when they wield a gun, police should be trained to do something else and to never kill somebody. I mean, even when, like, we talk about these mass murderers who, how do they not shoot them and they've killed 10 people, but yet my son could he might have stole a car. He didn't hurt her. He didn't he did not touch her. And by her own account, she told me he was very nice to her. If or somebody who's in mental crisis, somebody who's wanting to kill themselves, how do they end up killing? I can't wrap my mind around how you go from, you call the police because somebody's suicidal. And of course, if they're egging you on, it's because they want you to kill themselves because they're suicidal. So why would you handle it that way? It just kind of baffles my mind, because it was like, these people should be trained to do something completely different. And I had never looked at it until my son died, and you just start seeing it. And it's like, what is, and then, most of them, they don't care. They don't care about people. They don't care about anything.
They're so quick to kill them, to kill our loved ones.
And you know what? They weren't in fear of our loved ones. That's the whole thing. The mass murderers, the ones that shoot cops, those are the ones they fear. Those are the ones that come out alive, because they handle everything by the book. They go everything way because they are afraid they're going to die. So they do their jobs. It's when they don't fear the person that they either become reckless and they don't care, or I'm learning they could even be with some of these cases, it's like they plan to kill these people. My son, to almost the day that he died, he was arrested March 9th of 2019 by an officer, Brock Ruiz. It was for a stolen car. And my son had bruises all over in his mugshots. I didn't know. I saw him and he tried to say he got into a fight, but he had bruises everywhere right after the arrest. I know that this officer beat him up. Well, when he was supposedly, when they were chasing him, a female off-duty officer from the Pueblo Sheriff's Department said she spotted him and she started chasing him, and that he tried to run her off the road. She wasn't even in a marked car, so why would he try to run her off the road? Number one. She said, oh, he tried to run me off the road and he brandished his weapon at me like this. And it's the guy who had died the year that had arrested him the year before, his wife. And it's weird because I remember with a couple other cases that I've heard on your show, where the families were talking about how they did have this police involvement where there was signs beforehand, and that they intertwined with each other. And believe me, in this town, it intertwines like crazy. I mean, we've had 36 instances of police brutality. And I'm saying that they've been reported incidents since 2013. 36, two of them did not, two, three, four. Four of them didn't die. I believe it's four. And there's one that I count that they don't put on there, but I count it because I believe that they had a hand at this person's death, but they called it a suicide. But I believe that they played into it because it was a well-known teacher who my son had loved, and she was very good to my son. Just a few months ago, she was suicidal, and they called the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department chased her, tased her, and then she died from all of that. And they said that they didn't do anything wrong, that she committed suicide. Don't make sense. And they never did a critical incident report on her or anything. But I know that it was just weird.
That's shady as hell.
Yeah.
And then we got to think too, like how many other ones do we just not know about at all that completely got swept under the rug?
Can you imagine
Gosh.
talking to people in this town? Almost everyone I talk to says, and this is more of a male thing, but they say, oh, I get beat up every time I get arrested.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that, that's not normal, right? No, it's not. Is it? No, that's not normal. They're not supposed to do that. People don't even know that they're not supposed to do that.
And it's not okay. And
right.
It's you know what? I've experienced that over here in California too, with people I know. A lot of men, have police brutality is normal.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Because
and they don't even, a lot of times people have told me their stories that they've never told anybody, because it does shake them, it probably haunts them, and they don't tell anybody.
I've had the same thing. While doing my son's case, it's kind of, I'm researching back to him being in youth corrections, because I believe that's the start and the end. He started with the system at 13 when I was a single mom. Their dad died when he was 10. I was working just crazy hours. I was a store manager at a Family Dollar, and I was working 52 plus, but it was really like 72 plus hours a week. 80 was a good week when I was, that was like working 2 weeks. And he started kind of acting up. He was 13. Some friends of his told his parents said, there's this group, this program where if you put him in there, they'll give your family, they'll help your family. They'll give him a mentor. They'll do all this stuff, and they won't, and it's through DSS, but they won't take your kids. And I said, they won't take your kid. No, they won't take your kid. So I called, I put him in it, and it started out, it was a really good program. We were doing these things, but then he started acting up more and more and more. Well, she went to his school, the case manager went to his school, and said she was going to test him for weed. And he said, and he's 13 and mouthy. And I could remember just the way he would talk back then, because he had a little impediment. And she said, you need to quit smoking weed. And he said, you can't make me. He was defiant. He was oppositional defiant. You can't make me. I'm going to smoke weed if I want to. And she said, you want to bet? She took him out of the home and she put him in a place called El Pueblo Boys Ranch. He immediately started acting up, like uncharacteristically for him. They called me saying that he was because he was real quiet, and he was a jokester with his friends, but he wasn't like out there to where he would start trouble. Like he was more of a follower than a leader at that point. Let's put it that way. And they called and said he was inciting riots, and I'm like, and he was tiny. I'm telling you, he weighed 40 pounds, and and he was in the 8th grade, and he wrestled for under 60-pound weights. Tells you how tiny he was.
Yeah, he's little.
And he was inciting riots. He was running away. He was doing all this stuff, and I couldn't understand it. But then they started calling me. He had a broken nose. A teacher kicked him in the chest because he was laughing at her or him, and they were going to investigate. Well, I was like, well, you better investigate. Did you fire him? They were like, no, we don't fire him. We investigate and we go from there. Well, he was getting out. So I said, well, what's going on with that? Oh, it's unfair. They didn't, no charges pressed.
Nothing.
Well, 2 years after this happened, after he was in there, they closed the place for 239 instances of abuse just at that year in 2017. Wow. And so I started saying, that popped up like maybe 3 or 4 days after he died. And I said, is there a connection there? Is there something there? And just what I've been researching it's just mind-boggling. I've talked to people from this place. They told me that they sold them for sex, for like a sex trade, sex trafficking. And this goes back all the way to 1980.
Can you name the ranch again?
El Pueblo Boys and Girls Ranch.
Okay. That's very alarming. And, just from the little things you're sharing, you definitely experience abuse at the hands of law enforcement and authority figures. But then it's how many other things did he just not share, with
No, I
people?
know I didn't know half of what happened to him.
That's so scary.
And when he came out of there, he was honestly changed. He wasn't the same kid anymore. And my daughter was he started acting right because my middle daughter was pregnant. And I told him, Jesse, you're going to be an uncle now, so you got to be a good role model. He was so excited, okay. And he did good. He got out of there. He started, he was going to start high school. He got onto the football team. He loved it. And then the baby was stillborn. We knew she was sick, but I think it wasn't kind of reality that she really was sick, but
Wow.
she was stillborn, and it broke his heart. It broke all of our hearts, but it broke his heart especially.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And
Wow. So he dealt with his dad's death already at a young age. And here you were as a parent thinking you're doing the right thing, getting him into this program, mentors, people that are going to help shape his life a little better. And then that's a lot. It sounds like he needed help, but that's not the type of help.
No, I thought it was going to be like a Big Brothers program, because I knew he needed, we were a family of women, and poor him was the only boy. He was the youngest, he was the boy, and we're a bunch of loudmouth women, and we're a bunch of loudmouth opinionated women. And, I knew that was hard for him. And so I thought, and my dad spent a lot of time with him, always. And so he had that male figure, but my dad was the only one, and I knew he needed another like male figure. So that's what I kind of thought, that mentor that it was he'll get a big brother, no. And I even tried, even up until, as in 2019, thinking that the system was there to help, and they wasn't. And that's like the biggest mistake that I ever made, was to believe that the system could help you, because they won't help you. I begged the system to help then. Well, after my granddaughter died, he kind of spiraled. He got a disorderly conduct or a criminal mischief charge because him and his friends kicked in a window. Then he started acting really weird, and it was 2015, I believe. The Broncos had won the Super Bowl, and I remember it all because the Broncos won the Super Bowl. And then the next day, he had put on Facebook that he was using drugs, and he was 15. And I went downstairs and I said, son, are you using drugs? And he said, yeah. And I said, we'll get through this, we'll do this together. And he said, okay. I said, what do you want? And he said, heroin. And I said, oh my God, and he was on probation at the time, and he had a meeting coming up, and I said, are you going to they're going to drug test you, and he said, I know. And I said, well, you need to be honest with her, and because that's how I felt. Be honest and they'll help you, And he said, okay. So we went to his probation meeting, and he was honest with her. And she, at first, we tried to get him like outpatient. He got too bad too quickly. Within a month, he was dying from the heroin. Because he was already a little guy, and so he had lost like so much weight, and he was dying, and I saw it. So I called his probation officer, and they put him in another home. After that, they put him in a place called Southern Peaks. It's the same thing as El Pueblo, and I know that the same things happen there, and I just wanted him to get off the drugs. And then after that, he was kind of gone. After he was doing good, he went to high school, and he relapsed one week. He had quit, and he relapsed. And when he came home, he started back on track, and they were going to let him off probation. And his probation officer called me and said, Jesse has a warrant for his arrest. And I said, for what? And she said, a burglary charge. I said, what? You know, he's doing good. She said, I don't know. She goes, but you either need to go to his school and get him and bring him to me, or I'm going to send the cops to school. And I said, oh, that would be traumatic for him to have the cops go pick him up at school. So I went in and I picked him up, and so that was another thing I had to do. I took him in to probation, and he looked at me and he knew what was going on, and I couldn't lie to him. And so I told him what happened, and he said, Mom, I can't do this. And he ran. And he ran away for like a month. And then they caught him, and then they let him come home. And then he ran away again. And he ran away for 6 months, and I didn't know where he was. And then after that, he was only home for like a week. And then he ran away again, and they found him, and he got committed into the Department of Youth Services because he assaulted a guard at PYC. And when I said, son, why did you do that? And he said, Mom, he was evil. He wasn't out there for the kids. And I know that he had just been abused by these people over and over and over and over again. So he couldn't take it and that's why he was running away. And he was running away because of that. And he couldn't take it anymore. And he kicked that guard, and so then he went into another place and another place. And then he got out, and then they killed him. And I know about 3 weeks after he died, I called the DA's office because I wanted to know what was going on. And I didn't have a case number. And she says, what's his case number? And I said, I don't have it. So she looked up his name, and she said, he's a victim of a Timothy Ortiz. I said, if that's the cop's name, because he's involved in a police involved shooting. And she goes, oh no, that's not it. And she goes, he's the victim of a lot of crimes. And I go, what? And she says, hold on. And she puts me on hold, and she says, somebody will have to call you back. Not one person from the DA's office has ever called me back since. I went to a meeting there. He dealt with my sister. He didn't deal with me. They justified my son's shooting. They didn't deal with me. There is something there. Why was he the victim of numerous crimes? Did he blow the whistle on what happened to him when he was in Department of Youth, with all these kids? And is that why they killed him? I don't know.
My goodness.
But I do know that if I wouldn't have called that place when he was 13, he would still be alive.
Lynnett, let me ask you, the name that she said he was a victim, did you ever find out who that person was?
There are so many people with that name. I couldn't even begin to know, because there is a police with that name. Believe me, I've checked.
A lot of people. Yeah, I could imagine.
There's a kid in a gang that he was affiliated with, talking to, friends of his. His name is that. There is an adult who's a highway patrol whose name is that. I got a neighbor 2 doors down. His name is that. So yeah, from that, I couldn't go nowhere.
And then they just never contacted you again.
Never contacted me. They won't deal with me at the DA's office.
You know what? So my brother's case and his killing is one that was a targeted killing with a cover up also. And I've had similar, it reminded me of an instance I had where the secretary said too much with the funeral home, and then she caught herself, and then she had to hang up quick. And then I'm like, hey, wait. And that was the first week my brother was killed. So, I think, I just want to remind you too, us 4 years, I'm still finding out new things. And I know no matter what they're trying to hide, you're over here still finding out stuff. So,
and I find out stuff it feels like every single day. And then there are some days where I feel like, okay, I'm going crazy with this, but then it starts to, I'll learn about it a few weeks before I either put it out or it comes out. And then I say, see, I was right. I was right about this. There's a rumor that he wasn't the one that actually robbed the girl. I'm not saying that that's what it is. I'm saying that if you see the video that was taken from the youth center that night. It by all accounts, it's the jacket, the shoes, the pants looked a little different, and the kid looks a little taller than him and more hunched back over. But I showed some people and some friends the video, and one of them automatically says, "That's not Jesse," and she named the kid who I thought it was.
Wow.
There's no proof of any of that, so I'm not going to really bring any of that. I don't, and I start to say when it's not him that I'm like grasping at straws, like that I don't want to say that it's him. I've always made my kids, and especially my son, take responsibility when they do something wrong, because I've always took responsibility when I've done something wrong. If I do it wrong, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm not this, I did this and I did that. So my son learned that, and he always did. He always took responsibility for doing wrong. So I wouldn't be that way with him now. It's just the learning stuff that makes me question things. I'm not saying he's innocent, like to the fact that, he's this bubbling little angel that could do no wrong, because I know that he when you spend your teen years in lockup, you learn how to be a criminal, and that's what happens. They learn how to be criminals. You're with criminals. You're with guards who I was reading through past reports from when he was in these places, just the ones that they would send me, and in one of them it says, oh, guards were joking with him, if you really want to run away from this place, because it was like out in the nowhere in like a desert, you need to take off your shoes and run. So he took off his shoes and he ran one day because they told him that. If that don't tell you a lot right there.
Gosh, yeah. And we have people in the comments talking about those kind of homes and just the boarding schools, detention centers, and how often
It's
this
it's
happens.
that school to prison pipeline that they do, that they take our kids. And I know so many of his friends, and I feel so bad for his friends, because I know they've went through it too. And none of them, they've told me a little bit, but they haven't told me a whole lot. But I know they've went through things. Jesse's dream was to open up a center. When he went to school in Colorado Springs, this is his last school he had. Well, he went to homeschool after that, but the last public school he went to, he had a teacher who just loves, she loves him. She's actually going to come to my next rally and speak. But because he had people who cared about him, who didn't think he was a bad kid, And this teacher said that it started out, and he started in her class with another, she knew he was from this boy's home, so she thought he was going to kind of act up. So she'd watch him. Nope, he didn't act up. Participated, was good, got straight A's in there. But what impressed her is that one day this new kid came in, and he didn't have no pencils, he didn't have no paper, he didn't have nothing. And here was my son in the group home, having really nothing himself, to gave this kid half of his stuff. That was who my son was. They did a presentation about what they wanted to do when they grow up, and they had to have a plan for it. And he wanted to open a center for kids like him, and he wanted to center it around an MMA studio, because he did MMA. And the studio that he went to, his probation officer had set him up with them. They were very judgmental. If he was acting right, they loved him. If he messed up whatsoever, they would judge him, they would talk shit to him, they would throw him out. And all he ever did after that was strive for these guys' approval at this gym. And he never got it, because he was never good enough for them. And even I found a paper he had written after he died, and it said all these different gym names on it. And then he said at the bottom, it said, goal to go back to Jackson's gym after I prove that I am worthy. And what did it say? I'm worthy and demand that the respect to go back. So that broke my heart. So I sent it to the owner, to his sensei there. And I said, right after he died, I said, look, this, Jesse died, and here, this was what the last thing. And you know what he told me? I told him he was going to die that if that's how he lived.
Wow.
And I said, what?
What a piece of shit.
Oh, after that, I had people harass me from that gym. They would tell me, you're a piece of shit for saying that because I publicly said you're a piece of shit, I did.
Yeah.
Because he was publicly talking shit about my kid.
Did you say that the probation who hooked him up with, they did?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds about right.
Oh yeah, so we heard that he was stealing all kinds of cars. And I said, no, you read it in a news story because it had his arrest. There was a newspaper story where it reported a Denali being stolen and then another car being stolen and then arrested to this day, and it showed his name. So they said that he had done all three of the things. And I said, oh my God, you guys are not very smart, but that was, the harassment. I don't know if all of you families, and that's one thing I've never really talked about. If you guys all experience the kind of, I guess you'd say, abuse and harassment that we have. Oh my God, people on the internet are just cruel.
So
pieces of shit.
I'm guessing you guys have, I know some of what you guys have experienced since I've been friends with you on here, but let's share a little bit for the viewers. But I'm going to guess online, in person, and just
everywhere
for us, like in general. Yeah, share with us.
Well, sheriff started following me immediately. They would park outside my house in their trucks, and I took a picture of their truck in front of my house. Then I went and found the truck when it was at the sheriff's department where he was on duty, and I called the sheriff's department and I said, I need somebody to call me back. I need the sheriff to call me back because this is ridiculous. So they had the undersheriff call me, and I said, well, and I explained the truck to a T because I had the pictures of both. I go, I have the pictures of both. I could take them to the news, And he said, no, that's us. That's us. We're following you. And we heard you were going to have a march or a rally and you're going to incite violence. I said, are you kidding me?
They used that term on me before, incite violence.
Yeah, we're going to incite riots and violence and all this stuff. I said, okay. I said, yeah, and I have 40 people come to my rally. We're going to incite riots.
Yeah, they do that to most of the families, and it's like, okay, because I'm speaking and using my words, something they couldn't do if they want to act like we're being violent. That's crazy.
It is crazy. Online, I swear, any post that had anything to do with him at first, and even after for a while, oh my God, people would tell me that I should have been sterilized for raising such a criminal. I mean, they would come and hunt me out. They would come onto my posts like right after he died and said, if your son wasn't stealing a car, he'd be alive, and just talking shit. And, a lot of my son's friends came to my defense, but a lot of my own friends, get off her page, you're a piece of shit. And at first, it used to bother me and I would cry and, why are they saying that about me? And I don't care. Let them say whatever they want. I really don't care.
Yeah.
I know the truth. I know the truth. I know who my son was, and I know who we are. And, we're not the perfect family. We're not, I've had my problems. I wasn't the best mother. I tried to do my best. I love my kids, all of them. And I made a lot of mistakes, but I love my kids. And I will do anything for all of them, and I'll do anything for them. And that's how I feel. That's why I have to fight for justice for my son, because I owe him that. I owe him that.
Yeah. No, you've done, and I just want to say you've done a great job. I've seen you from the beginning. I've seen people attacking you. I'm sure I said something to people.
You have.
I don't that happened to me heavily when my brother was killed. Anything, they're quick. They're like vultures, just ready to attack. And
it's like a whole colony of fake pages come at you. And I believe it's police.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. I believe.
Yeah, I believe it's really police. Yeah. Well, they started to come out.
Both.
See, a lot of police, they don't use their real names.
Yeah.
So I started kind of researching the fake pages, and a few of them are cops. They are sheriffs, and there 911. A lot of them are dispatch and 911 up. And you would think, well, you guys, they think that they're cops too. So they will. I was telling somebody the other day, and nobody had known this, but when my son was killed, within, and I researched this afterwards, but you could tell from the timestamps on, on your pictures. About 20 to 30 911 operators, dispatch operators, sheriff's departments. This wasn't Pueblo police. This was all sheriffs and dispatch. Had take their profile pictures up and put a picture with the line in the middle that said "not today." They did that within 2 hours of my son dying.
Wow.
About 30 of them. And I have screenshots to prove it. What does that tell you right there?
That's sick to hear.
And I got screenshots to prove it. I actually wrote a poem I wrote on it when it happened. And I posted the exact picture with the timestamp on the thing. It was a girl named Erin, in fact. And it says "not today," and that's how they were saying you couldn't get us today. And that's what I said from the beginning. It was always about, it was a PYC officer who he supposedly carjacked. That would make her one of them. That's
wow.
Like, he had assaulted that PYC guard before. Who's that? That's one of them. So
yeah,
in their minds, they were going to kill him because he had gone after one of them. And if you know the cops thinking, and you see it, look at how 50 cops will come to a scene when they say shots are fired and an officer is down.
Yeah.
The whole world swarms towards them. That's what they do. And that's what they did to my son. They treated it not like an average, like if I got carjacked tomorrow, they wouldn't send two divisions after the person who did it and go on this chase and chase them. And
they might not even show up.
No, they probably wouldn't show up. But because this guard, and that's a whole other story, because she contradicts herself in her statements with stuff, and that's just a whole other story. But
there are a lot of conflicts of interest, and for me, in my opinion, having seen the videos and seen a lot of your posts and followed you since the beginning, it definitely looks, it is premeditated. It looks like he was targeted, and he's been a victim of brutality prior to this.
Numerous
and then all your little
before.
extra things.
Huh?
Is that all the extra things that you're sharing just prove it even more? You've done great keeping, you're saying you have your screenshots of even all that.
I keep everything, and I don't just keep them in one place. I send them to to a separate person, so that if something was to ever happen to me, there's somebody still has them. I put them in a cloud, and then I also have them in a hard drive. So I make sure I keep everything.
That's great. Yeah. And for all the families, this is what we got to do. We have
you've got to do it, and you've got to be vigilant at, and if anybody needs any help with anything, if I can find officers' addresses, everything. I got the officer's address. I found the DA's address, and we went to their houses and we protested.
I bet they didn't like that.
Oh no. After the decision was made, we actually went to the deputy's house and we protested one evening. Oh God, it got ugly. We were walking away actually, and the neighborhood was they were straight corrections, law enforcement, sheriffs, 911 dispatchers, and they were giving us a hard time. And one of them threatened to shoot my daughter because she threw water in the air, and he was going to shoot her.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, it had to be 50 cop cars. And I'm not exaggerating. There was like 10 highway patrol, 10 Pueblo PD, 10 county, county sheriffs. It was crazy. They just went and ambushed us. And it was, and all of a sudden the news crew was there too. It was like, what the hell? It was nuts. It was nuts.
I remember that. I
Yeah,
remember that.
But in a way it was exhilarating too, because I got to stand outside his house and make him feel uncomfortable, like they've made me feel every day since the day my son died. My daughter, my 22-year-old daughter, is afraid to go outside. She's afraid that her little baby's going to die because of these people. Cops stand outside her car for 2 hours. She's the youngest girl. She reminds me of you, and her. She reminds me of you, Marissa, because she's going to be that activist too. But right now she's kind of scared, and she's got to kind of just grow into herself.
Yeah.
And she's scared right now, so she kind of shied away from everything for a minute because they've scared her. I mean, they will look at her, they will laugh at her, they'll stand outside her car when they're investigating something else for like 2 hours. And it's just, they'll wave to her. We had an instance just not too long ago where, we've all had mental health issues because of this. And I got worried about her. And I called and I asked somebody to come and help her, but I said, please don't call the cops. We can't, no cops. And they swore to me that they wouldn't call the cops. So they get there and I'm there too. And here comes a drone. Here comes a drone and all these cops. Oh, I was pissed, And then they went, that's why. And so that's why she's so afraid. And then there goes another instance of me doing the wrong thing because I was trying to help somebody, my kid,
Gosh, that's a lot of people experience that, but there's not a lot of help. What are we supposed to do?
And what are we supposed to do in situations like that? I'm sorry, I will never call a police officer. I don't care if I'm dying in the middle of the street. I don't care. I'm going to just die. I don't want a cop helping me.
Yeah, I don't call police. I know a lot of families, called for help when their loved one was killed as well. So
a lot of them have.
A lot. Trying to do the right thing. So we had a question earlier that I wanted to hit it was about court. So I know that Jeff Alfonso was cleared in Jesse's killing, but so what's going on? Do you have a court coming up for the civil side of it?
I got a lawyer. They're actually my third ones already, I don't know. I haven't really spoken to him. He got kind of upset with me when I talked to the ACLU, and they said I'm not supposed to speak to anybody. And as you see, I don't listen because I am speaking. I don't care about money. And if I had to shut up and not speak about him, I internally would probably kill myself. And I say this because that's what helps me get through the day, is to be able to scream and tell everybody what has happened to him. If I was to not be able to speak to anybody, it would literally kill me. And I had to make a decision that, okay, if I'm not going to say nothing to them if they don't say nothing to me. I'll see what happens. If a court case happens and we have to go through it, I feel like I'm not the victim. I mean, I'm not the perpetrator. So who cares what I say on social media? Yeah. I'll say whatever, and that's what I'm going to tell them. Who cares what I say? Does it matter? Am I going to sway a jury from Denver? I doubt it, because not very many people even hear about his case. So that's my point of view. If a court, they're supposed to be filing suit, they haven't yet. So I don't, they drag their feet with everything. We got 2 years and they're a little over a year now. So okay. I used to bug them all the time. I've gotten to where if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I really don't care. I would like somewhere for them to say that they were guilty of something, but yeah. I understand the whole qualified immunity and all that crap. And so I don't really care about that. I would rather see this man in jail for what he did to my son than to ever have go a day in court, because I don't care about that part. I want this man in jail. And before I used to say, I don't care if he goes to jail. I just want him charged. No, I want to see this man in jail.
Yeah.
My son had to do jail time all the time for when he was committed a crime. I've done jail time for committing a crime.
Yeah.
So why doesn't he have to? He needs to go to jail. And I'm honestly, until I can't breathe no more, I'm going to make sure that I try every single day to make that happen. And that's my goal in life. So, sorry,
Yeah.
Jeff Alfonso, you got to deal with me for the rest of your life. So
You're going to be here. Yeah.
And we're the same age almost. We actually went to school together.
Are you serious? Wow.
We went to middle school together. I don't really remember him too much, but people who I grew up with, don't you remember him from school? And I'm like, no, not really.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, this town's pretty small, so.
So just for the people watching, when we're talking about him not being charged, the officer that killed Jesse, that's the criminal side. There are two sides of the court process. So the criminal side, which all the families want, is for the officers to be charged and thoroughly and unbiasedly investigated, but it doesn't happen. And then the other side of it is a civil case where ultimately it comes out to getting it's a money settlement. A part of the civil case, though, is we can get more information on our loved ones killing that we may not.
They actually, I guess, and I noticed, like with Timmy Henley's case, they found out there wasn't really a knife at the scene,
Yeah.
Because they're held to a higher standard and they're under oath more in these cases.
Yeah.
I guess you do get to find out more. So but my whole thing is I can't be quiet, and I
no, don't be quiet.
That's I can't.
I was gonna say is that the lawyers tell families to be quiet. My family, we're on our fourth lawyers now. No, none of them have ever told us to be quiet, but I was already not being quiet. And the truth of it is, you speaking does not change the facts of the matters of the cases. It does not change the facts.
If I'm wrong, then I just look like a crazy lady who's trying to defend her kid, and that's the way I look at it is people, you be the judge of it. I'm either this crazy lady who's trying to defend my kids and these cops are all innocent. Well, that'll come out in court.
Yeah.
But number one, I didn't do anything on March the 14th. Yeah. I lost my son. I didn't do anything wrong. So for it to become that I have to watch how I act and what I do and how I do, I'm not going to conform to that, because I didn't do anything wrong. And my son may have done something wrong that day, but he didn't deserve to die because of it. And this man had no right being judge, jury, and executioner to my son's life. My son was 20 years old. He was still a kid. He still had his whole life ahead of him. He should be having babies and getting married. Oh, I was so upset in November because this cop, this deputy, I told you he's about my age. His son got married, and all over Facebook, his son got married. And it's like, my son's never going to get married. Do you even think about that? Do you wake up and think, oh my God, I took a person's life? Because if I did, I would, even if I was a police officer, it's like I've always said, if I was driving my car and I hit a dog, I probably would never be able to drive again, because I would feel so bad about it. And like, if I hit a kid, even if it was an accident, I probably would never be able to drive again, because it would just, I have that kind of remorse in my heart. I feel things. I feel bad when I do wrong. And I don't understand how, even if you're a cop and you think you were justified in it, how could you take a life and not have any remorse for it whatsoever? How do you wake up and you're not looking in the mirror saying, oh my God, I took somebody's life. Even if I was afraid for my own, I took a life. How could,
almost like they don't have a conscience. They don't.
No, that's how I feel, is that they don't. And maybe that's what's wrong with police officers, is maybe they don't all start out that way, but maybe through the years of, seeing what they see and having what happens, they get that hardened and they don't get maybe it's almost like in turn they switch places and they become the criminals.
That's what
But
I've said
then you look, but
before.
then you look at a lot of them, they didn't have a lot to begin with, because a lot of them, if you look at the tests that they do, the screening tests, a lot of them should not be cops. They already didn't have the mentalities. I mean, a lot of them have agendas. A lot of them were already KKK, you know, and different things like that, that it's just like, I don't understand it. Cops are a trip.
Yeah, it's really disturbing. Um, I do want to hit something Anna Hernandez shared on here about how, you from the beginning, you have been speaking out, you've been loud, you've been holding actions, you've connected with a lot of people in just a year. And your son's case, there's a video of it, there's video that's big. And your son's case, he was also killed. What was it, the day before or after?
The day after Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor was killed the 13th and my son was killed the 14th.
Okay.
He was killed the 13th, like in the evening, like 10 o'clock at night. So they actually were like within not even 12 hours of each other.
Oh, wow. 12 hours.
And then I had wrote to Sean King, and I got to say this for all you Sean King's fans, because you guys got to know what he's about. I had wrote to Sean King 100,000 times after my son died. I had been a big supporter of Sean King. I had given to his actions. I had done a lot of stuff. And I wrote to him about 1 million times. He finally answered me back one day. I was excited to talk to him on the phone. He sent me a personal invite to his page, said, we want to help you. I'm going to hook you up. And I had just fired my first lawyer. He hooked me up with his best friend, Lynnett. Talked to Lynnett, had a meeting with them. It was a Saturday. We had a meeting with the DA on Monday. Told him they were supposed to come to town for it. George Floyd happened. We never heard from him again.
They just disappeared.
Just disappeared. 2 weeks later, I wrote Lynnett, because I kept calling the office trying to find, what's going on, because they were supposed to come for that meeting on that Monday. Nothing. And one day, Sean King finally answered me back, because I put something snide in his on his personal page. So and he said, oh, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. He just tried to pacify me for a second. They are ambulance chasers who only go after the big cases who they think that they could get something from. My son didn't fit the agenda. For one, he wasn't dark enough. He's brown, but they listed my son as being white. So that's how they looked at it. 2, anything where they even remotely think that the person has had a gun, and then people want to shy away from it and act like they were criminals, so they don't care. And I've got that a lot from a lot of groups. Yep. There's a mother's, like Black Lives Matter in Denver, and it's a mother's group who they were supposed to help me and do all this stuff, and then they said, oh no, he had a gun. No, he didn't, number one. But even if he did, he didn't deserve to die. And that's why I posted, and I don't know if you know, I posted shit at least 3 or 4 times a month where I put, even if you're guilty, doesn't mean you're supposed to die.
Yep.
I've been doing it for George Floyd, because they've been trying to, crucify him in the court case. And just because you're an addict doesn't mean you deserve to die. Just because you make mistakes in life, it doesn't mean that you deserve to die. And I understand people feeling the way that they feel about my kid was innocent and they shot him. But with my son, he didn't have a choice. My son went on this road at 13 that was through, it wasn't his fault. He was 13 and he was taught in a system that they wanted these kids to be, they've done it to, I see so many kids in this town who I want to like grab them and hug them and bring them home with me and tell them, no, I'm going to protect you, because I couldn't protect my son. And there's so many kids that I see, and they don't want to be this way. They don't want to go out there and think that they have to rob people and do this and do that and be on drugs and stuff. But when you grow up and you see it, and then you you get told this and you're in this home where you hear it daily and daily and daily,
Mhm.
and you have and to be abused, if you've ever been abused in your life, the feelings of helplessness has happens first. And then it's like you start to get to where you have this victim written on your forehead, and everybody looks at you like you're a victim. And it's like perpetrators can spot you out when you don't even know it, and they target you and they go after you. And I believe that with our youth, that happens to them. I was even looking at my son's friends after he died. You know that there are at least 10 of them that have, and 90% of them in the last 2 years have killed themselves. And
Wow.
the one thing that they all had in common is they were all in these homes.
Wow.
And I want to get in, because I write, I'm a writer, but I'm not really a journalist. But I want to get a journalist to work with me, because I would love to investigate this whole thing and just bring it down, because I don't believe it just stops at El Pueblo Boys Home. I think it's all of them.
Yeah.
And if I could do that, that would be giving my son some justice. But I would just love to help all his friends, because I know that they're hurting too. And I know that, like this one's in jail and that one's in jail, and I don't judge them because I know what they've had to deal with and stuff. And I just try to encourage them and tell them that there is a better way than that life, and that I don't want them, because they're doing that, for that to be an excuse for the police to kill them. And that's really what it is. And whether you're guilty or not, and I get mad and I say, oh, that mass murderer should have been shot, or this better. I don't necessarily mean that they should be shot. I just mean it's crazy that they can come out of it and they've committed heinous crimes, and like our loved ones die. How is that?
Yeah, I mean, the comparison, it's obvious, and we have a right to feel and say that, like,
Well, people
it's,
will be like, well, why would you say somebody should die, period, if you shouldn't believe in that? No, I'm not necessarily saying that they should die, because I don't
yeah,
believe, honestly, that the police should kill anybody.
yeah,
I believe if the police could keep that person alive, they should keep them all alive.
yeah,
I honestly don't even think the police need guns, to be honest with you. I think that's what hurts things. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have guns, and everybody, because don't everybody think I think everybody has a right to bear arms. I just think that when people get guns in their hands, a lot of people think that they become powerful with them, and they use it for power. And I don't care. And you got to look at that. It's a cop. They think that they're powerful. Why? Because they got this little piece in their hand that can take a person's life. It could take a person's life, and they could play God. They could play God with it. And so they say, well, they got this thing in their hand because this person, the criminal, got it in their hands. Well, see, so it's just a game. It's a game on whose gun is bigger. Do
yeah,
you know what I mean? And that's what the whole thing comes out to, is whose gun is bigger. Well, nobody's, because we're losing our loved ones because of it.
yeah, yeah. And I want to point out for Jesse's story, I think it's very special in a way, many ways, but the youth part of it, the detention centers, the homes, all of those, I think this needs to be spoken about more. And then the lack of services for our youth, and just not even just our youth, for our people. There are many people out there facing trauma that's impacting them in some way. But our youth, we need to do better. We need better.
I think even for like us too, because I've noticed, like in the last year, I've sought out counseling. I really have, because I know that this mentally has taken a toll on me. It's every single one of us families, we know the toll it's taken on each of our lives, and how it's changed our family dynamics, just period. We learn who our real family members are and who support us, because there are some people in families that their families don't support them whatsoever because they back the blue. Yeah. And they still back the blue. And there's different things. But I tried to get help too. And I honestly feel like they can't understand where I'm coming from whatsoever. So they can't help me.
Yeah.
The first person, I mean, I saw it like the week after my son died. So I'm on, and COVID's happening. So they're on phone sessions. So I'm like, we're crying the whole time, and I know it was too much for her. She couldn't. 3 sessions and she was like, okay, let's play phone tag.
Oh, wow.
And I never could get a hold of her. So I waited about a month or so and I signed up at the same place again. And I got another person. And this person during the whole thing would be going like this, like that, moving around. And, I got to where I was like, I'm not comfortable with you. I can't talk. And it was just funny because it's like, and the next person, I told her, this person did this and this person did that. And what did she do? She did the same thing.
Wow.
And I said, when this was the very first session, I said, yeah, she don't want to deal with me. And
yeah.
So I never called her back after that. So
a close family member of mine, we were speaking recently, and they want to start doing therapy for this. But then we have this thought, I'm scared for her to go because I'm like, well, what if it's somebody that backs the blue, the therapist? Or what if their husband's a cop? Or what if they think, your son deserved it? All these, I don't know.
So they're supposed to tell you, if they're ethical and they're doing their jobs the ways that they're supposed to, they are supposed to tell you at the beginning, like, because she should know. If you say, I'm, my daughter, my dad, whatever, got killed by police, and here it is, which is what I did. If they should say, well, I have a personal involvement with the police, so I don't believe that we would be a good fit. They ethically are supposed to do that. So if they don't, then, that's a big, not like anybody really cares because like the blue does whatever they want anyway. So kind of, but if a therapist should be a lot different than that. They should care about their clients. So they should tell them that and get them away, because you really wouldn't know how to help them anyway. So why would you want to keep seeing them?
Yeah. It's just not a good fit and should be.
Yeah. And I would expect for a therapist to tell me, and I've told them that before, I expect for you to tell me if you feel like my personality doesn't match you. And, because you should have a good rapport with your therapist. Mm-hmm. And I think that should matter more than anything. See, that's what I want to go back to school for.
That would be good. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead. There are so many comments. We just couldn't possibly get through all of them. So either after we finish up or when you have time, definitely go through all of them.
I will. I love you guys all. Thank you for coming and supporting me. You guys don't know what this means to me.
We've had
justice for Jesse forever, and that's how I feel. My son didn't deserve it, and he had a lot of people who loved him, and it's very apparent that a lot of people loved him, and this town hates that. They hate it, because they know they messed with the wrong kid when they messed with him.
Yeah, and keep doing what you're doing, Lynnett. There are people from all over that are watching, so just keep sharing. And I'm gonna we'll share the links to the videos you have and the website you have as well. I know you just started a new petition as well too, so we'll get that all up here. So everybody,
I'll share that all on the post. Yeah,
good. Okay. So before we close,
real quick, those petitions are really, really, really important. I like on the last one, I only have 100 signatures. The second, the one that has 21,000 and the newest one, those are the most important ones to have signed.
Okay.
But I need as many signatures as possible. In order for them to reopen a case, they're not going to just do it because a mom says, hey, this is the way it goes, reopen it. Yeah. They want to see that the public is worried about it, that the public is scared about it, that the public is asking questions about it. That's what these petitions are showing, that these people actually care about these cases. And if they don't see a public outcry, and I should have known this from the beginning because I heard something about that at the beginning of my son's case that, well, we don't hear a lot, because like for George Floyd, the whole world came out.
Yeah.
And they even did it in my town, oh, look, there's a George Floyd protest. Well, what about a Jesse Cedillo one? How come you didn't come to that one?
No.
And
Yeah.
I was real upset at first about all that, and then I don't really care no more, but that's the whole thing though. Had we had that kind of outpouring as they did for George Floyd, they wouldn't have been able to get away with this. It's because we didn't, and but we're a small group, and I don't care. I'll do it by myself. I'll bring my I'll bring two of my daughters. I'll bring all three of my daughters and my granddaughters. Could just be us, and I don't care. I'll keep screaming forever.
Yeah.
But the more people that there is a public outcry, the better. And if people could please do this, and because that's the only thing that's going to get the governor's attention, because he's saying he hasn't even heard of the case yet before. And I personally have emailed him, called the office, went underneath his Facebook posts and put it. So I know they've heard about it, but they have to see a public outcry. And that's what happened with Elijah McClain. They had to do the same thing. So that's what everybody could do, is just start sharing it.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm going to Oregon next week, but the following week when I get back, I'm going to have I'll have a rally here for him.
Okay. So you're going to the Portland, Oregon next week.
To the summit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you're going to see other families there. That's great.
Yes. I can't wait. Barbara's going to be there, and Anne's going to be there, and Marie's I can't wait. I'm excited, because when I went to California last summer, I wanted to meet all these people and I wasn't able to. So, and Valerie and all these people, I'm just so excited.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. It's always good having some kind of the events with other family members. Excuse me. Okay, so is there anything you want to share about Jesse before we close up? One, and then also if there's, besides the petitions, if there's anything for the people watching that you want to share.
Well, the people who knew Jesse, they know how he was. Oh my God, he was a clown. There are videos of him moving around weird, making funny faces. He was dancing with the cat. He was a clown. He was so funny, and I miss his laugh so much. He was so sweet. A friend of his told me that see, I claimed him on my income tax. I said, son, I'll give you $500 if you let me claim you. He said, okay. I gave him the $500. He gave it to one of his friends because his friend was homeless. And that's who Jesse was. So when somebody says something bad about Jesse, bring that up to him. And we don't have to get into fights with people anymore because it's not worth it. When somebody says something bad about him, and you don't even have to bring it up to them, just think in your head, you know what? Jesse was this, and think about a good memory you have of him. And then just ignore what they say. And I think that's the best way to get all of those things out of our heads, is to just ignore those people and to think about the good ones. I can't wait for the day to come when I don't have to share another one of those videos again. And I don't have to share another one of those pictures, and I don't have to share the autopsy, because I have the autopsy photos too. And I've seen them all. And it haunts me. But I also understand that there is a need that they have, why I have to share them.
Yeah.
Because police brutality, people, it's not pretty. It's ugly, and it's secretive. And when we hide them, and we do it because we don't want to portray our loved ones like that, and we don't want them to be seen like that. But when we have to show the ugly sides of police brutality, because we can't bring it to light if we don't. And we can't keep hiding it, because that's why they keep doing it, because we've been hiding it for forever. So until I don't have to anymore, I will share pictures and videos and stuff that I hate to share. And I'm so sorry, son, for having to do it. But they have to see that they did this to him, because I believe they did more than just shoot him that day, because he even has injuries on his body. And I haven't showed a lot of those, but someday I'll do it. But police brutality is disgusting. And Marissa, they'll even abuse corpses.
Yeah.
And we have to bring it out, because they're never gonna, the way people get to believe something is to visualize it. And if you share something like a video, yeah, they could see it, but then they can't see it either. But when I shared a picture of his bullet wounds, everybody was sharing that shit.
Yeah.
When I share a picture of him smiling, 5 people like it. When I share a picture of him with his face, when he's dead, with his bruises all over his face, that thing goes viral.
Yeah.
And that's the only way people will look at things. And I'm going to keep sharing it till it happens, till I don't have to share it anymore. Until then, I can't wait till the day when I never have to share one of those again, because it makes me sick to have to share them. It does. It makes me sick. I can't wait till I could just have to share his smile, because he had the most beautiful smile. And I can't wait till I could just share his smile.
Yeah, and I know those kind of things they're hard for people to see, but it's harder for you to share. And
no, and
people
it
don't
is
see that part.
I don't do it like easily, like here, look at my son, no, it's here. Look at what they did to my baby. Look what they did to my baby. That's what I say. Look what they did to my baby. Because that boy was my baby. He was the last kid I carried inside me. And he loved me unconditionally. I could do no wrong to him. And he loved me no matter what. And he used to go away from me so that he was ashamed of himself when he would act up. And he would, he would tell his friends, I can't be like this around my mom, and he could be mad at me, but nobody else on earth better ever be mad at me, because I couldn't do nothing wrong. Even his sisters, he could talk shit, but they better not ever say nothing bad about me.
Mom.
They say that mothers, when they carry their sons, when they leave their bodies, when they're born, that a part of the boy's DNA stays in the mother. Because, boys have both the X and Y chromosomes. And honestly, I believe they said, and that's why a mom and a boy share such a special bond. And when he died, a week before he died, I felt something, and I said, I feel something bad's going to happen. And then it did. And that day, I felt like something left me. And when I tell people I have a broken heart, I truly do. And it's not that, I love my son more than I love my daughters, because I love all my kids, and I would feel like this just about them too. But me and my son, he was the man in my life who I knew would I could always depend on. He loved his mama. He lived his life, but he loved his mama, and his mama loved him. And he was a good boy, and he deserved the chance to make things right for himself. He deserved, he might have went to prison for this, but he deserved the right to make things right with his life. He was 20 years old. He had his whole life, and now he's forever young, and he's forever young. He used to play that song, the YOLO, he used to, what's that song? Shoot. Yeah, it's about being forever young. It's not that song. It's a different one. But he used to play it all the time. Yeah, you only live once, he used to say. So, he had a tattoo on his arm that said "One life, one chance." And he heard that saying when he was in the second place he was in. And he got that put on his arm. And I'm going to write a book about his story someday. And that's going to be the name of the book. It's going to be, One Life, One Chance, because he had one life and they only gave him one chance to live it. And he didn't get to live it, and he didn't get to change it, and he didn't get to rewrite. He didn't get to have a future where he was, because he could be something. When he was a baby, we went to the park, and we came across these people who were missionaries, and they were praying, and they said, "Can we pray over you guys?" And my kids' dad was really into, he would, with religion and stuff, and he said, yeah. And so they said that there's something special about that little boy. And he was like 2 months old.
Oh.
And they said, there's something special is going to be about him. I didn't know that it was going to be that he was going to die, and that we were going to have to fight for him, and that's the way he was going to be special, that we were going to have to do it with his death, and to make it that his death is what was going to make him big in life. I wanted it to be while he was alive.
Yeah. Goodness. Gosh, he was so young, and just the way he went, it's just horrible that your family had to experience this, and you as a mom. But no, thank you for coming on and sharing about Jesse with us, and just speaking every day, because
I'll never stop. I'll never stop speaking about him. I've had to kind of stop marching and stuff because I'm not feeling so well right now. And I don't know if you guys see, I'm kind of like out of it today. I don't feel so good. I don't like, I feel real dizzy and stuff. So I don't know. I just kind of feel like I said, my heart literally broke that day, and it did. It literally broke, and it's broken now inside for real. And I will go down to my last breath, making sure that everybody knows that my son did not deserve this, and that that man deserves to be in jail.
Absolutely. Okay, and just again, thanks everybody for the comments. There's about 200 there now.
Wow.
So I was like, whoa, right now. And we're getting so many. So we appreciate you guys.
I know. I didn't even pick up my phone this whole time because I knew I would get fixated on them, and I decided I will do it afterwards.
No, that's good. And you got to share, you got to share a lot. So
and I did, yeah. And I appreciate you and everything that you do, Marissa, by bringing this, and you make it to where it's easier to talk to somebody because you know exactly what we're going through, because you've been through it yourself, and it's not somebody who you're wondering, because I'm always wondering, what does this person want? Why is this person talking to me? Because from the beginning, it's been crazy, because we've had people come in who wanted to find out information, so they became friends and they insinuated themselves with us, and so we're always wondering, but with is this person on the up and up? What's going on?
Yeah.
But with you, I've never like opened up this much, because and I was just able to talk about more my feelings about what I felt about my son than with anybody, because I knew that you knew, and I know the people listening, they know, because they've gone through it, and I know that the other people that are listening are people who know me and who know what happened to my boy, and what that ever happened to him was wrong, and it was wrong.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're able to feel like that and come on, and that's part of the reason why I made this show. I've spoken many times, and I've wondered about the person on the other end. Do they believe me? Are they genuine? What do they want? So, and that's what this is for. And for anybody watching who would want to come and share your loved one's story, reach out. And I know people get nervous before. I know you were a little nervous.
I was like, I gotta smoke.
And I just want people to feel comfortable sharing your loved one's truths, and just details that we don't really get to share. People don't know for future. So you don't have to go into details again. People can watch this video and get a lot of it.
Oh yeah, I'll say go to the video.
Yeah, so I'll send you an easy link, and it helps to talk about it.
And it does. And I've got a lot of like Anna, you had read a comment, I met her because of Jesse's case. She saw Jesse's case and she supported me. And me and her have become really close friends since it happened, because she's one of, like, blind faithfully, she knows what they did to Jesse was wrong. And she will tell people, she will fight people in her own town about it. And, she don't even know him.
Yeah. Is she in California? I think
Yeah, she is.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen some comments from her. We'll have to
Yeah.
connect. Yeah. So, okay. Well, we'll have to wrap it up. I hear my little one calling for mama.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, it's been 2 hours.
Yeah, no, it's probably his next feeding. I fed him right before we got on.
Oh, yeah, 2
but
hours.
yeah, no, thank you, Lynnett, again.
And I will answer everybody's questions. I'm going to go on now.
Yeah, make sure you have some time because there's a whole bunch. So, thank you for sharing with us and feeling
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay. Take care, everybody who's watching, and I will see you guys later, and we'll be on next week.
Everybody. Justice for Jesse.
Justice for Jesse. All right, we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you, guys.
Bye, Lynnett. Bye-bye.